Quality is a big thing in Agile because the entire methodology and frameworks of Agile development have been constructed to deliver customer requirements. So we can create solutions that meet the customer's expectations and deliver business value. That is what quality is about. Okay. So as a matter of fact, quality is built into the processes of Agile development. It's not considered as an afterthought. It's actually built into the process. Whereas any situation that inhibits the attainment of that objective can be classified as negative risk. In this video, we look at the elements of quality, how Agile methodologies have been designed to respond to quality and to prevent the occurrence of risk or defect on projects. Before we get into the details, let me do a quick overview of the Agile framework, especially for those who are still not clear about the framework. So this is the product backlog. This is where we break down the project vision statement into epics, okay, epics or large user stories, and with constant customer collaboration. When these items within the backlog are implemented, business value will be created. Now, after that, we would select some elements within this product backlog and feed it into a sprint planning in order to create a sprint backlog. So, for instance, if we authorize a sprint, let's say sprint 1, we determine based on the release management schedule, if we are to execute sprint within 2 weeks. Remember, sprints can be delivered within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a maximum of 4 weeks. All right. So we decide the duration of the sprint. So for instance, if we agree that we will be implementing in 2 weeks for every sprint, we select as many user stories that can be completed within 2 weeks. Okay, many epics or large user stories that can be completed within 2 weeks. Okay, and that is what we break down into user stories and tasks within the sprint backlog, which is fed into execution. So we execute the sprint here and then we test. And once we have tested to meet the acceptance criteria, we perform a sprint review or demonstration in order to validate the outcome, that feature increment. If it is good, then it's a potentially shippable increment to the client. If it's not good, whatever issue we uncover, it is fed into the sprint backlog, okay, for it to be addressed. Okay, and then of course, after every sprint demonstration, we perform a sprint retrospective in order to uncover areas that require improvement so the team can become better and better. So this is the generic Agile framework. Now let us look at how Agile projects incorporates the attainment of quality objective in its procedures, how it has designed its work processes in order to achieve quality objectives. We begin with the product backlog. Now, the product backlog is led by the product owner, who represents the customer and is the voice of the customer. Now, one of the fundamental doctrines of Agile is to ensure that the team is creating something that is in constant alignment with the business objectives of the client. Because of that, the product owner is constantly interfacing with the client in order to understand what the mind of the client is, in order to understand the heartbeat of the client, so that the team can create deliverables that resonate with the needs of the client's business. So that is why the voice of the customer or the product owner leads the product backlog to ensure that the deliverables or the items that exist within the product backlog have been prioritized according to the expectations and business needs of the customer. Now, the fact that the customer is always interfacing with the client learning of the objectives of the client increases the tendency of the team creating something that meets the objectives of the client and reduces the tendency of creating something that is not in alignment with the client's expectations. Now, another doctrine in Agile is continuous customer collaboration. Like I keep saying, the customer is a regular part of the team, a regular part of the team. And every time we are communicating with the customer in order to learn of their objective, if there is any change, okay, in priorities, we pick that information. If the client wants to include new features, we are always collaborating with the client because business keeps changing. And in agile environment, things are highly dynamic. Because of that, what is relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow. So because business keeps changing and requirements keep changing, agile development has allowed it for customers to keep imputing new features and functions. Okay, so within the product backlog, we are always ready. We are always ready to welcome changes. We are always ready to welcome new features and functions. We are even ready to drop off features that we consider no longer relevant. Okay, all that happens within the product backlog. Also, the concept of servant leadership is very, very important because the team who also joins in enhancing the product backlog are very comfortable with their leader, because in agile development, we prefer servant leadership. So the scrum master who leads the entire project effort, supporting the team, ensuring that the team has the required environment for them to conveniently flow with their work, is very, very important. And that makes it possible for team members to come to the leader and discuss issues with the leader. If they are facing any challenge or any mistakes they may have encountered, they are very free to talk to the leader and ensure that issues like this do not happen again. All right, so that is very important in agile development. Then we look at the sprint planning effort, which focuses on incremental delivery. Now, the fact that we are delivering outcomes by increments, by installment, allows us to gain early feedback from the business, from the marketplace, which ensures that consistently we are also creating something that meets the expectations of the client. And the fact that we are constantly involving the team members in the sprint planning effort means that they will bring their technical perspectives to the planning table and ensure that we are using the right technologies, we are using the right approaches towards work. Then we have the sprint backlog. Now, the sprint backlog contains work elements that have been created, planned, and estimated to be completed within a current sprint. Now, sprint backlogs contain user stories. By the architecture of user stories, it prevents or reduces the occurrence of defects. User stories contain three embodiments. The first structure represents the persona, the person performing the action. The second structure represents which action is being performed or which functionality is expected to be completed. And then the third structure represents the objective that functionality satisfies to the end user. Now remember, user stories come with acceptance criteria. When team members, the developers, are creating deliverables, they measure these deliverables against the acceptance criteria and against the definition of done to ensure that they are creating something that resonates with the needs of the end user. That is why I told you that agile development by default has been designed in such a way that it has the end user constantly in mind. And things have been developed in such a way that constantly we are creating something that would meet the expectations of the customer. The next thing we look at is sprint execution. And within sprint execution, a number of things happen that have been designed in such a way that the creation of defects is actually minimized to its barest possibility. Okay, so that is it. We have daily stand-ups. Daily stand-ups are meant to explore challenges team members may be facing in the development process. If there are any risk issues that team members are facing, these issues may be identified early because as the name sounds, daily stand-ups happen every day. These are regular daily meetings. So it doesn't take time for us to explore or even identify risk issues that may be cropping up on the project. So you see, agile systems have been developed that way. So we identify problems early through daily stand-ups. Co-location is that physical space the team members share and work together. So it makes it very easy for them to glide around the team area. And if there are any challenges, it's easy to address these challenges. It's easy to discuss these challenges because communication is easy and rampant. And with co-location comes information radiators. So we can follow through the progress of the work. Everybody understands what is happening. Everybody is communicating through the software, through the technology. And then the occurrence of defect is actually minimized. Then we have face-to-face communication. During sprint execution, we encourage a lot of face-to-face communication so that we can read meanings into every action, into every emotions, into every expressions. Very, very important in agile development so that we can reduce the occurrence of defects. Then we have T-shaped skills. I think we all know that agile development prefers T-shaped skilled members over I-shaped skilled members. T-shaped skilled members are team members or individuals who have in-depth expertise in one area and have broad or generalized expertise in other areas. We do this to prevent what we call single points of failure. When we talk about single points of failure, we are talking about a situation where if a component fails to work or respond, it renders the other components null and void. And by extension, when it comes to the human resource, sometimes you have a situation where if one member leaves the development team, everything comes to a standstill because everything they are developing is dependent on him or her, and nobody else can do what he does. If you work with T-shaped mentality, it means that there isn't any work that nobody else can do. Whatever someone is doing, there are other members of the team who could equally function in that role. So we reduce that risk to its barest minimum. And then we have team velocity. When we talk about team velocity, is the calculation we perform to understand the team's rate of progress, okay? So that we plan work according to that velocity. The team is not overwhelmed with work, okay? Being overwhelmed with work could lead to burnout, okay? It could lead to the creation of defects, problems, bugs on the project, okay? So by this orientation, we reduce that to its barest minimum. Yeah, then we come to testing. Most of the strategies we have already discussed are all proactive strategies to attaining quality objectives and to preventing defects. Now, testing is a reactive strategy so that if there are any defects, the test mechanisms will uncover these defects and address them even before they get into the hands of the customer. Now, in agile development, testing is compulsory. And when you even have to work with test-driven development orientations, the test documents are actually created first before the deliverables. And these deliverables must pass the test before they are qualified to the next stages. All right. So when it comes to testing, we have unit testing, we have integrated testing, we have end-to-end testing. All right. These concepts, we'll be discussing them later in this video. Then we come to sprint reviews or demonstrations where we showcase working software. Unlike waterfall traditional project management, where stakeholders who want to know the progress of the work, they receive status reports through their emails or other channels, and they read these status reports as literature in terms of where the project has gotten to, the progress of the project. They read it as literature. That is not how it is done in Agile development. Now, for Agile project management, if we want to report the progress of the work, we show a working software. We show it. That is why we say that don't tell, show. So if we want to know where the work has gotten to in Agile development, we deliver a working sample, we deliver a working software, and then we get to know, yes, this is what we have gotten to. No long things, we don't talk plenty. We show by example, we show a working software in Agile development. You understand? Yeah, so that is it. Now, by showing a working software in the hands of end users, in the hands of the customer, it allows the customer the opportunity to examine it, to find out whether the objectives or the expectations have been met. And within that feature increment, if the objectives have not been met, then early feedback could be gained by the team for them to rework on that situation and bring it into conformance. Now, retrospectives that are also carried out after sprint demonstrations are meant for the team to continually improve. Remember, continuous process improvement is a crucial aspect of quality management, okay? So once the team performs that, they are able to improve, they are able to get better, and future sprints benefit from the continuous process improvement efforts by the team. We want to use the next few minutes to explore some Agile terminologies associated to quality and risk. The first terminology we look at is called refactoring. Now, refactoring is the process of restructuring existing software codes in order to improve design, structure, or implementation without affecting its behavior or functionality. So this is a very important aspect of Agile development, where we keep on improving the codes without changing the functionality. Sometimes some of the codes are even rewritten so that we can have better performance with our software. The second concept is unit testing. Unit testing is the testing of individual components of a software to determine whether they are fit for use. The third item is integrated testing. Integrated testing is when individual software modules are combined and tested as a group. Okay, so that is it. And there is the need for continuous integrated testing. Each time there is a feature increment to ensure that the entire system is working well. Then we come to end-to-end testing. End-to-end testing is a kind of overall testing that tests software in its entirety, from beginning to end, as well as its connection with other applications using real-time settings. Now, the objective of end-to-end testing is to test on the look and feel and the performance of the software as it will be in the hands of the end user, okay? So that we look at it and its connection with other external applications. So we know how the end user will have a feel of the software should it land in their hands today. A defect or a bug is a problem or situation that disrupts the way something works. Defects negate users' experience of a system. I think we know this. Another terminology you need to know and remember is defect cycle time. Defect cycle time is the time it takes to fix a defect from the time it is found to the time it is fixed. Then we have escaped defects. Escape defects are defects that have sneaked through testing and quality assurance unseen or undetected, and it's dangerous. They have managed to sneak through all your testing stages, gone through it, unseen or undetected. And chances are high that they are headed straight to the customer's end. Pre-mortem, I like this. Pre-mortem is a risk brainstorming technique that looks at causes of failure or defect before they happen. So it's a way of imagining that something has gone wrong and brainstorming what could potentially cause those situations and putting systems and procedures in place to prevent the causes. I hope you get it. Yeah, it's a proactive way of ensuring quality and preventing defects on projects. Then we have the 5 whys. 5 whys is an interrogative technique used to explore the cause and effect relationships underlying a particular problem with the goal of getting to the root cause. So it's a brainstorming technique where we ask some why questions in order to get to the root cause of issues. For example, let's say that there's a problem and the problem is you run through a red light. Why did you run through a red light? Because I was late for work. Why were you late for work? I did not wake up early. Why didn't you wake up early? The alarm was not working. Why was the alarm not working? Because the battery had run out. And why? Because I forgot to check it. You see, you are asking why questions so you can get to the root cause. And for each response, you ask another why. And that is the 5 whys in this interrogative process. The 10th concept we look at is technical debts. Now, technical debts are works that have to be completed but have been omitted, deprioritized, or partially done simply because the team was rather focused on primary deliverables. You know, when developers work, there are certain things that they do that do not necessarily contribute into the primary deliverables, but they make the system better. Okay? But not doing them would accrue because they eventually must still do them for the system. And these ones, we call them technical debts, okay? And they have to be done by all means. Not doing them will still keep things accruing. Sometimes these technical debts come as a result of pressure from customers who always want to see things and they disregard some of these technical requirements. So in a bid to keep the customer satisfied, these developers rush the development process and give them things that they can see. They give these customers things that they can see and then have a feel of whilst they work behind the scenes to complete some of these technical debts. Peer review is a technique in which members of the development team review each other's work for the purposes of identifying defects and improving the overall software. That is peer review. So usually this one would review this other person's work, and this individual will also review the other person's work, and that is peer review. Then finally, we look at pair programming. In pair programming, 2 developers sit together to code, with one typically offering advice and serving as navigator. It improves on the outcome. It improves the software they write, okay, and is aimed towards quality objectives. Remember, we are still training for your PMP Project Management certification. Join us for in-person classes in Ghana. Wherever you are in the world, in Africa, Europe, America, you can also join our online sessions. Remember, we have a very strong and effective post-training system to get you to the finish line. Also get in touch if you want to pursue the Professional Scrum Master certification, the Certified Scrum Master, or the Agile Certified Practitioner. Together, we will write that victory song. Thank you very much and see you in the next lesson.